Yeah, and in the reality of the example I was given, just in one area, use of fossil fuels, the reality check is the recognition by the organisation that it needs to change, and many organisations are invested in the status quo, the training of its people, its systems, its structures, its markets, its supply chains. And, where possible, organisations want to avoid disruption to those elements because it comes at a cost. So there's always this tension with change, but part of developing that approach is harnessing change and the powerful benefits that it might bring. But in terms of my involvement with the military over a long time, their investments in biodiesel to get themselves off, dug up out of the ground diesel type reserves. In early days, when I worked with the Air Force, simulation, so that's aircraft simulation, was seen as an additional chance for a pilot to gain flying experience. And it was very difficult to convince pilots that, in fact, hey, these simulators are becoming very effective. Couldn't you actually stop flying, a little, and spend more time in the simulator? And that was met with absolute horrible, examples of how that'll mean planes falling out of the sky. But when we come to today, the reality is most civil airlines, the first time a pilot will co-pilot a commercial airliner is for real, is the day before they carry passengers. There's a check captain who signs off the co-pilot to be able to fly the aircraft the next day. So simulations come a long way. So in terms of the military, it's about, well, guys, you don't have to go spend 100,000 litres of fuel to do that particular scenario. You can do it in the simulator, 80%, and then go fly it for the last 20%. So there are already in the real world alternatives, but it's actually the organisation being able to convince its people, I've found, is the major impediment that alternatives do offer a more sustainable and even more effective outcome. But the challenge is convincing the people, and that requires leadership. And many organisations struggle in that area to harness those leadership capabilities to drive that change.
Well, I was just going to say, maybe, Rob just answered the question that we have in our questions panel. It was asked about total cost of ownership, why it's overlooked, and why are more people doing that? And maybe it's we don't want to know that total cost of ownership, and it does come back to leadership and the challenges it presents. And so I can't really answer this, but this is food for topic, and others on the panel is, why don't we look at total cost? Is it fear? Is it lack of education? Is it lack of leadership? Right. So I know that's a doozy of a question at the top of the hour, but I think it's germane to the question that was put into the question box.
At a risk of being cliche, I want to say that I think it's at the heart of all these discussions is the realization that we're all part of a system, and our net impact today has a net impact tomorrow, and that that the trees that are there converting carbon dioxide to oxygen are part of your lung in a way, if you look at the function that you need the oxygen to convert it to carbon dioxide and so on. So it's this realization, whether it's water going through the rivers, being processed, put back into your system and back out of your system, and what is coming out and what is going in. It's the recognition that we are all part of a large system, and we all have impact on each other today and on our future generations tomorrow.
On with what Malak is saying, I think that, it is a system, and most of our organizations don't have the right tools to view it as a system. And, again, a number of you, including Malak, talked about having the right data. That in itself is a huge, but very important, but it's not sufficient. It's then understanding how it's all connected. And I've been spending the last year working very hard. I've been in this field for a long time, but with a software company saying, it's not just about the data, it's about how it's all connected, and then having the right decision tools that goes with that. So, I think we know there are a lot of unknown unknowns, but there are many known factors right now. And as painful as they are, we have to change. And the only way we're going to change is by empowering ourselves to think differently. And for that, we'll need data, and we'll need to be able to connect the dots across that system.
Where I can put on, because I mean, this is my mission. That's the reason why I'm a professor, because there are not sufficient possibilities to educate people in thinking so broadly and holistically, and to do the connections and to use the data and to set up decisions and take decisions that have this complex picture. And I think, and that's what I'm working on, and I try to, because there are not sufficient programs who try to have this triple bottom line approach, who educate people in the social skills and in the economic skills and in the technological and environmental skills. And that's something we need to push much, much harder. And I'm always surprised why we don't have many more programs to educate people in that direction and educate leaders to do that, or to bring that together on a management level. And I only want to finish, like I posted a publication into the chat, which has been proposed this year and in the summer by some BCG folks, and I'm a BCG alum. And so about 400 people were listening to their presentation. And what it says is that the technology, asking how it goes forward, the technology is there, and it also, the finance is there. So if you do it wisely, it's not the costs and it's not the technology to save the climate, and it's not the social aspect that people cannot afford housing anymore, because in Germany, like everything, the costs are rising. So we have to keep it low to afford housing, but it can all be done. And it's really, like Rob says, it's also, you have to know how, and you have to convince the people, and the people have to understand that they have to move. And it's not something like German Angst that you cannot do it, you can. So that's something we need to push more forward.
Some amazing themes have emerged, and I just wholeheartedly echo all of them. One, the need for education and communication, for this conversation to be ongoing and continued is vital, because everybody has to participate in this effort for, as David summed it up, the idea that we get to continue. Sustainability is continuing, and the theme of leadership is so important with that. And at the end of the day, I just think the principles of asset management, when applied, will inherently foster sustainable decisions, sustainable practices. I think they are a vital support to any organization who's looking to be more sustainable in their impact. And one of my favorite takeaways, Annette, was your drawing the distinction that sustainability is outward focused and other focused. When we think about only ourselves, we make selfish decisions, and that's in all realms. So when we are other focused, whether it's my neighbor or our future generations, we can make better decisions.